She is a financial planner and advisor.
He's the founder and president of Zinnia Wealth Management. He's also a popular radio host.
There's a way to have your money in the market and have protected growth.
This holistic approach will help people get to and through retirement.
Absolutely.
You have to change the way that you think. It's not about having these double-digit returns anymore. Things are changing, and you have to have an advisor that's keeping up with the changes.
Your outcome is going to become very desirable if you have some sort of coach helping you along the way.
And our next recipient for the Media and Communications XP, Charisse
Rivers.
Do not have to risk all your money in the market to survive, because it's about the retirement dream.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk every Thursday at 3:30 Facebook Live. I am your host, Charisse Rivers, CEO, financial strategist. I call myself a guru of Zinnia Wealth Management. I'm here to inspire, educate you, get you to retirement and beyond. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for excusing me for not being here last week because it was 4th of July and we had some fun family activities. But we are starting off this week with some stock market news. So the pregame will be that, talk about what Trump and Governor DeSantis is doing. And then we're going to go into Zinnia U. We're going to educate you on a few things. The first thing is how to become an income wizard, for starters, using all different sorts and types of assets, whether you're younger or older. And then we're going to talk about different insurance, health insurance plans, whether you're younger or older, been laid off, you're almost 65, but not quite, how to get the insurance and where to go, and useful tools there. And then we'll end our segments with some fun, doing good local events and our Q&A if you have any questions. So let's get started. If you hear me talking to myself behind the scenes, it's only because Mike, my producer, is watching and he might be telling me something or there's a glitch in the system. So just to give you a heads up on that. Well, let's start with the stock market. It has been an ugly day. We're taking losses from what we started out was positive week, unfortunately. And so right now, before the market closes, we're probably going to be down somewhere on an average of 1% between the S&P 500 and Dow. Even the NASDAQ has taken a little bit of losses. And for the week, though, NASDAQ has done pretty well. We're hitting some all-time highs. I mean, go figure. We have Apple. We have these big tech companies in there that are really driving it. Talk about Amazon, Tesla. So that is driving some of the market, which is a good thing. But the market has been a roller coaster. And we told you early on that this was not going to end. Unfortunately, every time there's news about the virus and the hospitals opening, just expect to go along with the ride. And if you can't handle this roller coaster ride, then you should get out, because I don't think we've tested our lows completely yet. Okay, what do we got here? Okay, jobless claims again dropped to a 4-month low of 1.31 million in early July. Here's some positive news. There's 6.5 million people that have been hired back. So we're far, far away from even getting close to getting people back to work. But that is positive news, unfortunately. Something else that drove the market up this week, let's talk about Novavax. The government is funding $1.6 billion for this company to figure out and get this vaccine here as soon as possible, which is great. There's been lots of pharmaceutical companies out there trying to figure out, the best way to go about this virus. And so they basically said it's called Novavax, and $1.8 billion is a lot of money. So they've been around for a long time. They've yet to really find a vaccine for flu, but they've always kind of, they found some things for animals and so on and so forth. So the government must feel pretty positive about that. But that actually bumped up the stock market, which was a very positive thing when it came to the NASDAQ. I have a funny photo for you all. It's kind of funny. And I don't know if you guys remember Usain Bolt. He is an Olympic runner, but we put him as the NASDAQ winner for the time being. You can see we have a couple of the other runners, the Dow Jones, the Russell, and the S&P are still lagging, unfortunately. And but right now, leader of the board is NASDAQ and Mr. Bolt. Okay, so we can probably take that down now. Let's talk about what's driving our markets. Basically, we are, for starters, there's been a rollback. There's been a lot of communities and states that said, hey, we're opening, and now we're going to wait. We're going to roll it back. So that made people very nervous. The government came out and said they're going to put a cap on the next stimulus of $1 trillion. So when the government came out and said that was going to be the case, markets went down a little bit because of that. Hey, 1 trillion's good, but I'm unfortunately not sure it's going to be enough. Right now, there's talk of United Airlines. Basically, they got funding and they had to keep all their employees on till September 30th. And now they're saying September 30th, they're going to be probably letting 36,000 people go. And they're not the only ones talking about this. And September 30th is a big date to have to worry about, because that's when the government said, okay, after that date, if you don't get any more money from us, we got to let people go. You got to have to let people go. But that's a lot of people. That's going to hurt a lot of people in Chicago. I know that. And that's why I do feel like market cycles are still doing the roller coasters. We have some outs happening here in the future. Jim Cramer, I don't know if y'all caught Jim Cramer, but he still said COVID-19 index that he has put together. He said those stay-at-home stocks are really kicking butt. And he still says if you're going to do the stay-at-home, if COVID virus really continues to spike and go up, he said you might want to own some Zoom video, Spotify, sorry about that, DocuSign, and Peloton. Of course, Peloton bikes, anybody knows what those are, that stock really spiked because people were thinking, well, I'm going to work out at home a lot more because we're not going to the gym. So that makes complete sense. He's saying that if the COVID does spike and you're in some risky stocks, it might be a good time to consider some blue chip stocks like Walmart, Procter & Gamble, Campbell Soup. Hopefully we don't have to be running to Campbell Soup here anytime soon. Robert Kiyosaki, everybody knows who that guy is, love him to death. He actually tweeted, why are both the stock market and gold high right now? And basically he said, because the US dollar is dying. It says commercial-backed mortgage securities mean office buildings, shopping malls, hotels are broke. He also said collateralized loan obligation problems mean CEOs are broke. And so basically he says the dollar is dying. And so we have two people saying two really, really important things. We're looking at behind the scenes, what's going on with loans and these big companies. And there's only so much that they can do. But if they don't have money coming in, they're going to start firing people and things are going to start going downhill. So let's just hope for the best, pray that markets turn around here. But I will say second and third quarter is going to be pretty rough. And then hopefully in fourth quarter, things start moving forward. So just remember, if you are living off the money that's in the market, you need to come up with a better plan, because you don't want to take money out of the stock market to live on when your account value is being devalued and it's going down. Okay, so remember that. Now let's jump right into Trump news. Well, basically, I'm sure you all heard this already, but the White House has officially withdrawn the U.S. from the World Health Organization, breaking ties with global public health bodies amid the corona epidemic. So that'll be interesting to see where that goes in the future. So that always puts some fear in people's eyes whenever there's a big change. Wall Street doesn't like change, and I know you folks do not either. The other thing is Donald Trump said everybody is going back to school. It's mandated. Everybody's going back to school, but he's going to leave it up to the locals, the state, local authorities to decide how that's going to work. So if you're here in Marion County where I live, basically the schools are giving us an option. They said we can send our kids to school and or we can homeschool them online. And so that will be very interesting. So I might send one child to school because I know she really wants to go, and then one stay at home that I know will not wear a mask all day long. So there's some precautions taking place there. Okay, we're going to move on. Let's talk about Governor DeSantis. Man, this guy, he makes good moves. He was just in the Villages, for all you Village people. Whoop, whoop. He was just there speaking alongside the University of Florida health system. And basically they said the average age of new cases in Florida is around 21, which I thought was interesting. They also said that even though the state has hit a high for the COVID-19 in the past few weeks, people testing positive aren't suffering too many symptoms. That is positive. So I think the younger people we're seeing out there really aren't. But, if you're a little bit older, getting close to retirement, and we have any ailments, remember, those are the ones that are seeing and suffering a lot more. And he said definitely the situation in Florida is definitely a lot better in New York. So he's not as worried. So again, follow all the precautions, rules, sanitize, stay the distance, and keep your groups to your normal group. Don't start finding new groups to hang out with, because I know it's getting easier. We all want to go hang out and do some new things. Just be careful with that. And so again, Disney World is finally opening this Saturday. And for those people who have passes, you get to go Thursday and Friday. And don't forget, they're going to be now officially holding the NBA and the MLS sports league. So that'll be fun and give some people something to do. On the bad news, Bank of America in Florida has shut down 50 central locations, including one in the Villages. So I don't like to hear that about Bank of America, because they were trying to, have a comeback, but I'm afraid this financial situation might be hurting them. And let's talk about the Villages. We have all the movie theaters out there. Old Mill, we got the Barnstorm Theater and Brownwood, Lake Sumter Landing, Playhouse. They're all closed. And it's not because people aren't showing up. It's because there's no movies. Nobody's making movies right now. So there's nothing new to show people. So there's no point of being open, which I thought was interesting. I never even thought about that because, I would like to go to a movie, but if there's no new movies out, what am I going to go see? I know, it's a good question. I know you're all thinking that too. All right. Well, that sums up our Trump news, Central Florida news, and market update. We are going to dive into trivia. Remember, there's 4 questions. 2 of them come from our last segment. 1 of them is personal and 1 is fun. So if you get, anybody who gets 4 right wins. And remember, the prize is you get $100 from Zinnia Wealth Management going to a church or a charity, some sort of 501c3, okay? And you have till the very end of this segment, when we're all done, to get all the answers in. So if you're not sure, you might want to do some Googling. So the first question is from our last episode. From our last Zinnia U on dividends, what did I say the yield should be if you wanted a stock to grow and appreciate and you want a dividend also? So we're comparing it to the S&P 500 the last 5 years. Their yield has been somewhere close to 2%. And so the question is, if you want a nice dividend and the yield, what's the answer? Does your basically, does it have to be over 5%, over 2%, over 10%, or over 7.5%? Mike, can they see this question? So what did I say the yield must be if you want the stock to grow and appreciate? Okay, very good. Number 2. From our last interview, who did I say could consider swing trading? Remember, I was kind of finicky about this one. A, people who have student loans. B, people who have debt. C, people who don't have enough in their emergency savings. Or D, people with excess cash that don't need it to live on. That should be a really easy one to answer, people. Okay, question number 3. Here's a fun one. This is one of my favorite actresses. What movie in 1988 gave Julia Roberts her big break and was also included Matt Damon in his first speaking role? This is an easy one. You ready? A, Stepmom. B, Mystic Pizza. B, Steel Magnolias, one of my favorites. And D, Pretty Woman, my ultimate favorite. So which one of these gave her her breakout? All righty. Last but not least, to get to know Charisse a little bit better, my question. This is so easy. Really, you guys, this is the easy week. I could be sending out lots of checks to these charities and churches this week, because if everybody gets it right, guess what? Everybody gets a check. All right, here we go. What is Charisse's favorite college sports to watch? favorite college sports to watch. Ready? Is it football? Is it basketball? Is it baseball? Or is it a combination of A and B, which is football and basketball? And if you know who my favorite team is, that's just a bonus round. Okay. Favorite teams, everybody knows about that. Okay. So submit your answers. By the end, Mike will tell us who got the most, and we'll have fun with that. Even if you just guess, it's okay. All right. So here's the most important segment that we're going to be going over, and it's called Educating You, Zinnia You. And this is where we're going to talk about how to become an income wizard and what to do with health insurance, because there's so many options. And depending on your season of life, whether you're 25 or 64 or 65. So let's start with Income Wizard. I talk about this on my radio show. In case you all forgot, I have a radio show on 97.3 FM The Sky. It's North Central Florida. I also am on 99.9. You can catch me every Saturday and Sunday. You cannot miss me. If you want to know exactly what times, just go to zinniawealth.com. Zinnia like the flower, zinniawealth.com. You can get all that information on our radio show and our classes that we're teaching on a monthly basis. So, and we talk about this income wizard because I want everybody to become an income wizard. And why it's so important to me, because I want everyone to know that if you plan early enough, you can plan for nice pensions in the future. We call it private pensions. If you plan early enough and you start saving enough, and we work on dividend distributions, we can plan for that. We can plan for real estate. And so we want to show you that there's 5 ways, and I truly believe, well, I'll say 4 to 5 checks you should receive in retirement. And it all depends how much you have saved. And so let's just kind of go through quickly. We have our Social Security. That's 1 check, right? We're going to have a dividend check, right? You're either going to get a pension or a contractual guarantee, possibly a real estate check, and then possibly a pension. So, or part-time work. Some people retire and they're just looking for a couple $100 a month to add to their income, to supplement, and that could actually be a check. But I know we can't do that forever. So let's start with the first one. It's called Social Security. You know, as long as you worked for, basically in a nutshell, 10 years, 40 hours, whatever, you can get a Social Security check. But here's the number is, it's really 10 years. If you did not, because demographically, maybe you had kids and you're in and out of the workforce and you didn't get those and you're married, you are allowed to draw off your spouse's Social Security and it does not affect theirs. So that's 1 income check, but actually 2, because there's 2 of you in the household if there is 2 of you. The second one would be, let's talk about dividend stocks. So last week we talked a lot about dividend stocks. So we also talked earlier that Kramer said maybe it's time to do some blue chip stocks. So blue chip stocks have some pretty reasonable dividends. They're a little bit safer companies, even though markets can crash and they can lose market share and lose 30 and 40%. But the nice thing, historically, what we've seen is they still pay a dividend. And so here, that's the beauty of it. And that does not come off your principal. So that's kind of a real beautiful thing. So that could be a check to you. So let's say you have Walmart, or let's say go back to AT&T and they give you a 4% dividend. You have $100,000 in there. The market just tanked and now your 100,000 is only 70,000. Well, the dividend is 4%. They're still going to give you, 4% of what you had in there. So that's also a really nice thing. So even when markets go down and those dollars don't come out of that devalued portfolio. So some people in my office have 1 paycheck that comes to them every year called the dividend. Now, the second one's a Social Security, the other one's a pension. So what are those people out there that don't have pensions? So you can do something called an annuity. Basically, when you retire and you get a pension, I don't know if you know this, but all it is an annuity. You get this lump sum of money, and you basically can take it, roll it to an IRA and do something with it, or you can take a larger income stream for life from your company you work with. And all it is, it gets placed into an annuity. The problem with those are, I call it the cost of insurance. We call it pension maximization. Sometimes it actually makes sense to take it from the employer, but sometimes it makes sense to roll over that chunk of money that you can to an IRA, so there's no taxes and penalties, and we create a private pension, which we call also annuity. So there's new strategies These annuities have evolved. And I will say 50% of the time when people come into my office, I will say, let's move that lump sum and put it into annuity and still get a very close, or sometimes even more income stream than you would had if you left it with your employer. So now we have Social Security, we have a pension, we have the annuity, we have the dividend checks, right? So we're becoming this income wizard because we want checks coming to us from different sources. Because if markets are crashing and all you have is a Social Security check and you're just taking 4% off your portfolio, that is really the worst plan in history. And that's how people run out of money. So that was the annuity conversation. Now let's talk about real estate. And so we have some clients that love real estate. You might have been a landlord before and you just love that income coming in. So we have these real estate funds. They're not REITs. They're something totally different that most advisors in town do not offer. Actually, in Florida, there's only a few of us. They're called DSTs, Delaware Statutory Trust. They're just a way for you to be a landlord without taking the call, without getting that phone call at midnight saying my toilet's broke. You're still getting, a dividend somewhere between 4, 5, maybe 5.5%. And all the income you get, basically close to somewhere around only a third of it's taxable because you're getting all the depreciation. Just somebody else is handling it. So you're kind of a shareholder. So it's been a great investment for some of our clients. And that could be your 4th or 5th income check. And then what say you just decide, hey, I'm going to go buy a house, Sharice, I'm going to rent it. Now you're a landlord, so that's your income check. So we get a lot of people that say, retired, I've always wanted to buy a house and fix it up and rent it. I love real estate. Real estate's a great investment. You just need to know what you're doing so you don't get in trouble, and know that sometimes people don't pay their rent. So there could be months where you don't get paid. And so that does change your income. So we like to talk about things that don't ever stop or don't ever change in retirement specifically. Let's talk about bonds. So you can go out and go buy a 30-year, say, Chevron bond, maybe offering a 5% dividend, and you get that 5%, every year. And so what will happen with that bond, the value will fluctuate up and down, but they'll still give you your dividend. The problem is that we find when you just go buy straight out bonds, is people don't commit to them for 30 years. They actually sell them early. And in times like this, you would take a big loss. And so you got to be very careful. But that absolutely can be part of your income plan. And last but not least, part of our income wizard strategy, remember, we only need 4 to 5 paychecks coming to us when we're finally retired, but we're coming from different angles. We have the exchange traded fund or mutual funds. And if you've been watching for a while, you all know that I would prefer an exchange traded fund because of liquidity purposes and more control and lower fees. We can take, if the market is not going down and we're in an active portfolio, because you have an active manager. So at Zinnia Wealth, we have active managed portfolios that have some protective measures into them. But if we're pulling some interest off the top from these exchange traded funds and the market goes down, we might say, let's just not do that anymore. And we'll pull from another bucket. So having these different buckets will help you when you get to retirement and you're finally living off this money. If you're properly planning prior, and if you're in retirement, it's not too late either, to make sure that maybe we stop income on one bucket, we start it on another. And so you just don't want to have all your dollars in the stock market, especially in times like this. I think you guys are all feeling the wrath. And I've heard recently, there's some people that says, hey, I need to go back to work. I need to do part-time. So I've heard some retirees applying at Instacart and delivering groceries, which I think is really risky because retirees are the ones who might have more issues with this flu vaccine. So again, income wizard, you want to make sure it's just not about a big lump of money when you retire. When you retire, you become your own pension manager because most companies don't offer you pensions. So you have this lump sum of money and now you're your own pension manager and you have to figure out how to take different pieces of this lump sum of money and turn it into different income streams and different income sources, because you don't want to all of a sudden wake up and say, oh, we just lost $1,000 a month in income or $2,000 a month of income because we can't pull from those accounts anymore, right? So this is why you do that. Remember, we do second opinion reviews. So if you have a financial advisor and you're happy, or maybe you're not and you have some questions, you're thinking, well, they're not talking about this kind of stuff. Remember, go to zinniawealth.com. you can just put your information in there and we'll set up a 15-30 minute conference call for you, and we'll give you our valued opinion on what maybe you need to add to your portfolios or subtract. And if it looks good, we're going to tell you, looks great. You don't need to do anything. So that was the income wizard portion. And I know everybody's waiting for this. This is the most important. How to handle health insurance if you lose your job, become furloughed, or if you've just retired and you're not 65 and you can't get on Medicare yet. So let's talk about that, because there's so many directions here. And I do have a contact all my clients use for getting their insurance. And so let's just kind of go over these things. So let's just talk about, let's just say you were fired and you don't have insurance. Well, your old employer, I call it your ex-employer, they typically have COBRA. As long as they've had 20 employees or more, they usually offer, and they worked full-time, COBRA. Now, COBRA is more expensive because your company is no longer helping you pay for it. So it does cost more. But they will extend that insurance to you and whoever you had on that policy for 18 months. So that could get you by. But then after 18 months, if you haven't received a job, which might be hard in times like this, then what do you do? So we want to talk about then what do you do? You can use a state plan. State plans, those are from federal health insurance markets. You guys remember that, right? And so if you lose a job and all of a sudden, maybe your company doesn't offer COBRA, you can use the state insurance. You have 60 days from loss of job or from when you leave your employer to get the insurance. So you need to be very careful there. I've had so many people that would wait 6 weeks or 8 weeks and say, "Oh, Sharice, I need insurance." I'm like, we're past the limit. We can't do that. And so you can go to healthcare.gov for that kind of information. And let's just say it says the national average premium for a silver level plan is somewhere around $462. So here's the thing. Remember, there's subsidies out there. So if you lost a job, you don't really have a whole lot of income. So that $462 could be $20, and you could have a very good plan. They have the silver, gold, platinum plan. Silver is kind of on the lower end, but it's still a great plan. And so you can definitely go to healthcare, make sure I got that right, healthcare.gov, and you can start putting in your information. I'll ask you what your income is. If you don't have any income, they're going to put you on this next thing called Medicaid. So if you're on Medicaid, because we don't have income, then you have to go to Medicaid doctors. Sometimes they're very limited to who you can go to. So you got to be careful with that. Let's just see. Here's the other option. What if you're married and your spouse has insurance with their employer? And you need to find out if they can add you and your kids or whatever you need to add. Some companies will and some won't. And then you got to look at the cost of it, because sometimes a spouse is still working and they're only paying $100 a month for their insurance. And then you bring the second spouse on, all of a sudden it jumps up to $600 to $700. So you have to ask yourself, is that really feasible? Am I better off going to the state insurance plan and paying $400 or $300 or maybe only $50 a month? So you have to shop a little bit there. And but basically Medicaid, I mean, you have to be really in need and destitute for Medicaid. I mean, you don't have any income coming in. And so you can definitely go to, I think you go to ssa.gov and you can apply for Medicaid there and Social Security, disability, and that kind of stuff. Last but not least, this has probably been one of our favorite go-tos for our clients that are not on Medicare yet. Maybe they're 60, 62. Maybe you left your employer, but you still have income coming in from other sources. So you're not getting a whole lot of money from the state, or you don't get COBRA. And we call them those Christian plans. And I just have to tell you, because I did it. 3 years ago, I had a family plan. I was on Blue Cross Blue Shield. And, I just paid a reasonable premium. But then when all the insurance, everything changed, all of a sudden my premium doubled. And I sat there, I said, okay, we never go to the doctors, we never go to the hospitals, we're all really healthy. Do we need to pay double the premium? So then we started looking at MediShare and all that kind of stuff. And we actually decided to go with the Christian plan. And I've been on it for 3 years now, and it's been quite fabulous. So let me explain what that means. So some of the plans say, okay, we want to see that you actually go to church. Some of the plans don't care. They're not going to ask you, okay? And so whether you go to church or not, you can still go on these plans. So it's kind of a nice group insurance for you to go with. And there's so many plans out there. And honestly, there's only 2 I like out of like, I don't know, 22. And you want to make sure you get the right one. So if you are looking for insurance, I have a couple who is 64 and 63, and they've had it for 2 years now, and they were going to go get regular Blue Cross Blue Shield or United Healthcare. We were shopping the market for them, and the premiums were like $1,200 to $1,800. And I said, well, I've been doing the Christian plan. Why don't you guys give it a try 1 year? If not, maybe pop back onto one of those. And, you know, one of them goes to the doctors a lot, and they have been incredibly happy with it. I had to go figure, the day I left Blue Cross Blue Shield 6 months later, I had to go get surgery for the first time in my life. I turned 40 and everything went downhill. So the nice thing is I've had some copays, a couple of deductibles, and I'm so glad I went with that, because when I add up what I would have paid in premium, the Christian plan really worked for me. It doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And anything that has a lower price sometimes has a couple of hoops that you have to jump through. Like for me, I did get a bill. It wasn't a statement, it was actual bill. So we had to send it in and prove that I did have the insurance, you know, on those days. So that was easy. It was worth the savings for me. So don't be afraid of the Christian plans. I have many clients on it. I've been on it, so I can vouch for it now since I've had surgeries and prescriptions, and my son all of a sudden is allergic to everything. So we haven't paid a whole lot, which is wonderful. You have copays to your primary care doctor, to your specialist, and there's a bunch of plans. I do say, if you have particular doctors that you want to keep, ask them if they'll take it first before you start switching around. So that's the important thing to know. And then if you are turning that happy age of 65 and you're going into Medicare, that is a whole nother ruling and following that you need to know about. And you know, hey, how about next week I dive into Medicare as one of my Zinnia U education segments, because learning about Medicare sometimes can be a little confusing and give you a little bit of a headache. And I have a really simple way to understand it and what the difference between a Medicare supplement is and a Medigap plan, and or if you just don't get anything, you have Medicare. So I'll educate you on that next week. That'd be a great idea. And basically that wraps up any of our health segment here on costs and what to do and not to do. There's so much more I could say, but I try to keep it a little bit limited on Facebook because I want to keep these to 30, 35 minutes long. Any questions there, Mike? I know I answered a bunch of them already, but any lingering? Okay. All right. And our final segment that we call Doing Good News. Okay, so we like to showcase locals and what they're doing here locally. So if you want to go ahead and pop this up, we saw this in the Daily Sun in the Villages. A local quartet called the Pops Chorus Folks Quartet is taking their act to the driveway. I love it. 4 men rehearse and perform in their driveway for neighbors in the Villages of Piedmont. Their latest performance was June 30th. Cool thing to see, with people finding ways to have fun and be socially distant. So if you got a golf cart, get over there. That sounds really cool. I know a lot of people in band, and they have, you know, they can't go do those things right now, and I know they have a love for it. So if you're in it, get your band team together and do it in your driveway. And if you're close to me, I'd definitely be showing up. So I thought that was neat to showcase. Last but not least, since I was just there for a family vacation, I want to talk about the Florida Keys. So if you want to pop up the picture of the Florida Keys, look how beautiful it is. It really is that beautiful. Overseas highway that goes all the way from Key Largo to Key West was ranked of the 50 most scenic drives in the world by a travel website. And it's a 125-mile stretch, links from the beginning of the Keys to the end, running over clear blue waters, which is so gorgeous. And I tell folks, you know, there's not a whole lot we can do. And if you're staying quarantined with just family, I would highly recommend taking a drive down to the Keys. Once you get into Key Largo, all the way to Key West, it is a 2-hour drive. Sometimes it can be a little bit longer, but what I want you to do is Google up some local restaurants, local stores that you can mom and pop stores, because there's some really neat shops. There's a SeaWorld Seashell right somewhere around mile marker 99. There's a local place where they make all these homemade, like it's 5 o'clock somewhere, Kokomo sponges. I mean, it's really neat. And some of the best key lime pie. Stop by Captain Craig's in Tavernier for the best world famous key lime pie and grouper sandwiches. I'm just giving you some tips because these are all the spots I hit every time I go down because they're my favorites. And there's a lot of local places as you're going down to Marathon in Key West. But hey, let's support the Keys. They had a rough hurricane 2 years ago, and they're just kind of getting back into the swing of things. Honestly, now everything looks beautiful. Everything's cleaned up. They are open for business. And so if you're looking for a place to go and not fly, there's some great campgrounds down there. Also, if you're going to Key West, Boyd's Campground's fabulous. And so anyways, I just got back from there. That's why I have this nice tan, and wanted to share that. I thought it was a beautiful picture that Katie, our producer, put together. And thank you for that. Okay, you guys, we had a good quick session today. I hope we all learned something. If you have any questions, you can put it in Facebook. Mike, if anybody actually answered any of our trivia questions, let me know. And if not, okay, we have Ron who got 3 out of 4 correct. So Ron, you are our big winner. Make sure you call us and tell us where you want the check to, who you want it to be written out to, and we'll send it your way. Thanks for playing. So much fun. And remember, I am here to educate, inspire, get you to retirement and beyond. And every Thursday at 3:30, we're going to do this. And if there's anything you want me to specifically talk about, just email me or go to zinniawealth.com. You can say, hey, Sharice, I would love to learn about this, because if you're wanting to learn about it, somebody else is too, I'm sure. And if you want to get on our call list, we send a call announcement every Thursday at 3 o'clock, just reminding you of what we're going to talk about this week. And you can decide whether to tune in or not. But this is always housed on Facebook, so you can always go back and watch it, which is great. And don't forget, when you go to zinniawealth.com, there's a little red book to retirement. You can download that absolutely for free. It is a must read. It's only 37 pages. So, okay, thanks for tuning in. As usual, live by design and not by default. And we'll see you here next week.
She is a financial planner and advisor.
She's the founder and president of Zinnia Wealth Management. It's also a popular radio show.
There's a way to have the money in the market and have protected growth.
This holistic approach will help people get to and through retirement.
Absolutely.
You have to change the way that you think. It's not about having these double-digit returns anymore. Things are changing, and you have to have an advisor that's keeping up with the changes.
Your outcome is going to become very desirable if you have some sort of coach helping you along the way.
And our next recipient from the Media and Communications Expo, Sharice.
Sharice Rivers.
Do not have to risk all your money in the market to survive, because it's about the retirement dream.